So when you think about the most serious charge somebody can face, it's murder. In California, there are different levels of crimes that can be charged with a death. First degree murder, second degree murder, voluntary manslaughter, and involuntary manslaughter. The difference between the two, or the four, I should say, are dramatic. Involuntary manslaughter has a maximum possible penalty of 4 years, whereas first degree murder can be life without parole or even technically the death penalty. So, when defending a murder case, we want to look at lots of different things. Murder, unlike almost any other crime out there, your intent, alleged intent, when the event occurred, is extremely important to the outcome. So, for example, we had a case 6, 7 years back where the person was literally fighting over a shotgun. One guy wanted the shotgun, the other guy wanted the shotgun. And during the course of this struggle, they were friends, by the way. The gun went off, and unfortunately, one of them died. My client was charged with second degree murder, and he was charged with using or discharging a firearm. Under the law, that's 40 years to life. 40 years to life. We actually ended up getting him an involuntary manslaughter charge. He got 3 years. He had credit for time served, was out in a year and a half. The difference was, again, his intent. He had no intention of killing the person. And in fact, we were able to show that the weapon was fired by the victim, not my client. While they were both touching the weapon, the only thumbprint found on the trigger was not my client's, who was the alleged victim. Also, with other types of murder charges, not just that one, there's various things about level of intent, and most often, the best defense to a murder charge is self-defense. Most often, people who are involved in that kind of struggle for life are doing so because they have no other choice. They're trying to defend themselves, and they win the battle. Because the police make an arrest that unfortunately is the wrong person, we have to face the murder charges. The consequences are life ending, the consequences are life altering. There's no limit to what we will try and do to help save you or your loved one from a murder charge because the consequences are so dramatic. All right, so when you're trying to decide whether to take a plea deal or an arrangement with the DA's office or the judge on a violent crime, the stakes are especially high. You don't just take a deal on a half a second thought and move along. Instead, we want to look at every possible thing we can do to make your outcome better. So, what was the cause of the violent crime? Was it because you were feeling threatened? Was it because you've been abused as a child? Is it because that things that have happened because when you were in Vietnam or Iraq or Afghanistan, you suffered brain trauma as you were fighting for our country? All these things come into play when deciding whether or not to take a deal. We at Strongest Events, and me, David Lear, personally in Ventura County, what we look for is what can we show the DA's office? What can we show the judge to show that your outcome should be different than the standard, hey, let's lock them up and throw away the key? And that's when I want to work for you. I want to make sure that whatever we do, whatever offer we're making, I frankly won't make to you an offer until I've done everything humanly possible to make you the best possible outcome. Because until then, I haven't done my job. And so when we evaluate a plea deal, the first thing I want you to know is we've tried every darn thing there is to try. And number two, I'll tell you personally, I think this is the best deal you'll get, or I'll tell you, I think we can do better. And then you get to decide your choice whether you should take the deal or not. But you want to do it after you know we've done everything possible to reduce the charges or reduce the impact. So when we're looking at sentencing issues with violent crimes, the penalties vary dramatically. I have two cases, for example, a person was charged with assault causing great bodily injury. Under the law, that could be 2 years in prison, 3 years in prison, or 4 years in prison. In both cases, actually, we had an African American male who was assaulted by a white person. And during the assault, ironically, both were on video. My clients were attacked, and then they defended themselves. And during their defense, broke a bone, a nose or a collarbone, or during the defense. And because of those facts, felony charges, one of my clients handled guns on a daily basis as a prop manager for a movie production company. A felony for him was life altering. A felony for him would mean that he couldn't ever touch a gun again as long as he lived. He couldn't ever work again in the film industry because that was his job, was to make those guns safe. The stakes were dramatic. The stakes were life altering. Instead of a felony conviction and a prison sentence of 3 years, which was the first target the DA's office had, he got a misdemeanor for disturbing the peace. He got no jail time, and he kept his job. The other client of mine got a misdemeanor and 30 days of jail, which he served by wearing an ankle bracelet for 2 weeks. When we're talking about violent crime, serious felonies with assaults, the penalties can range from a misdemeanor and no time in jail or 30 days in jail all the way up to potentially a life sentence. You don't want to go through those choices by yourself. You don't want to go through those choices with somebody who doesn't care about your life as much as I do. So you want to contact Strongest Defense and make sure you do everything possible to help us help you get a better outcome.